My next question is kind of for Linda. So I know for me, I've been kind of frustrated with a lot of my fellow students' responses just over the last couple of weeks because it seems like we're kind of missing the point, right? Um, like this is tough and it's hard for everybody, but like I don't think it's controversial to say that it's harder for some of us. Well, not for some of us, but it's harder for some than it is for others. And so like my question is to like Linda, as an international student, as somebody who's from China, right? You can't really go home right now in the same way that like I can or some of our fellow students can. And so it's like, how do you feel seeing people talk about their stuff or people talking about graduation or the fact that they can't see their friend or insert something that seems minuscule when you're someone who can't really go home right now.
Yeah, Corey, I really appreciate that. I just called my parents a week ago and decided I won't be going home this summer. And graduation is supposed to be such a special one for the entire family because my parents never visited. They never dropped me off. They have never been in the States. And I booked their flights, back in September. I became a travel agency myself to make sure this happened smoothly. And I felt nothing when I made those cancellations with the hotels and the flights. But when I call them and see their face on the screen, like I froze. And I've never missed home. I've never told them I miss you, I miss home. But that was the first time in, I think, 6 or 7 years I cried. But in that moment, I feel so frustrated. I was almost letting all the emotions that I've been shoving inside out. But, after that, I think about how privileged I am to be in the position I am right now. Even without my parents coming, even with me 6,000 miles away from home, I have a place to live. I have really good food. I have this community of people who cares so much about me that my mom teared up hearing about the resources Duke is providing me with right now. And I have a job. So that really puts me into perspective of the loss and the fear that I have personally is minuscule compared to a lot of things other people are experiencing. I will have a makeup graduation. My parents will eventually see me in person. I will see them. But compared to the folks who are experiencing things that I can't even fathom, that makes me think how I can be of service during this time, how I can stay optimistic and touch the lives I can touch to go forward on a positive note, because this will normalize. We are still a community, and I think Duke is uniquely the community it is right now, amplified through this moment. Look at everything that y'all are doing and how Duke comes together. It makes me so proud to be a member of this family. And I'm so, I'm 100% authentic saying I feel at home now, even though I am at the farthest point from home possible. I feel the intangible things that a family provides you with. Yeah, I don't know how to wrap up that. So there you go.
Yeah. Well, can I just say that, one of the things that Gary and I talk about all the time too is just the idea that we're just so appreciative of all the experiences of our students and your ability to take perspective right now and your ability to be thinking about these things and to ask us how we're doing and be just so, you two are amazing. There's so many amazing students that are, putting this situation in context and sort of seeing, there's a very deliberate, you just demonstrated, there's a very deliberate choice you're making to find the sort of things that are the sort of the growth and perspective and sort of positives here. And I think that is how we're all going to make our way through this, is continuing to focus on the things that are sort of available to us right now as, here's look at all the things we've got and look how lucky we are, and that's all the more poignant when it's not easy. It's not easy right now.
I think one of the most important things that we can do at moments like these is just to ask each other how you're doing. How are you right now? How are you feeling? How are you coping? I'm a clinical psychologist and I didn't practice for very long, but I can remember the first time I ever saw one of my patients out. Like I was at the movie theater and I saw one of my patients kind of with her family kind of far away from me. And I had seen her that very same day in therapy, and in the room with me, she was having a very difficult time. It had been a crushing week for her, and she was really struggling, and lots of tears, and we're doing lots of work in that room. And when I saw her that evening, she was out with her family, and if I had just glanced at her, I would never have known that she was struggling with all the things that she was actually dealing with. And I think about that a lot, because we never know what people are really dealing with. And the very best thing we can do is ask in a gentle way, how are you doing? And listen through an answer in the way that you just did, Corey, with Linda. I think that's the most human thing that we can offer one another, and one of the most important things we can do. Don't presume, but be available to listen.
And kind of on that, I had a whole train of thought that this is tough. Like, these times the times are tough. The things we're going through are tough. The things that we're feeling are tough. And like, it kind of, like, for me, it's put into perspective what's important and what's not. And I kind of wanted to get a feel for if it's done the same for y'all. And if so, like, what is y'all's priority now? And is it different from your priorities prior?
That's a good question. I don't know. I mean, I'd love to like get a sense like of Corey and Linda's answer to this too. Like, like I'm, not to not answer it, but I'm interested in your answer, either now or after your answers in that same thing.
I mean, for me personally, like, connections, like my personal health, like, and the health of those I care about are the things that are at the forefront of my mind right now. Like schoolwork, photography, all the stuff that kind of grinds my gears while I'm on campus kind of fell away as soon as, like, once they really canceled school. And now, like, there are people dying across the world. And so it's like, I'm worried about staying healthy, and I'm worried about my family. I'm worried about my friends. And like, when I leave, like, when this is all said and done, I hope that, like, that same urgency, that same worry for my family, my friends persists, because like, I don't want this COVID stuff to end, like, this like urgent care that I have for the people I care about,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm constantly thinking about how can we create and sustain memories of joy and happiness, even this is a moment a lot of us may mourn on years and years down the road. And that can be the smallest thing. So I remember, during spring break when the news first broke, a fellow friend who's also a senior is going back to California. And I was like, do you want to take graduation photo? And then that was 10 o'clock at night. So the two of us end up going to the chapel with, borrowed gowns and cap. At 1 o'clock in the morning, she with her full makeup. We end up taking grad photos with just the two of us on an empty campus at 1 o'clock in the morning. Yeah. And that's the smallest thing that will persist. That is a memory of joy. That is a memory of happiness instead of sadness. So that's top one priority. Small benefits at this point.
I have a top I think it's like a top 6 or top 7 things seniors that I know and I'm close to. I'll give them my like top 6 or top 7 of things. And one of them is, it's usually like after the week you graduate, I'll send a message. But one of them is, stay in touch with people and think about ways that you can sort of, the people that you care about may not be, equal to the people that you spend all your time with, right? Obviously the people you spend time with, but there's other people that you really do care about. How do you stay connected to them? And maybe part of the COVID thing is, sort of how do you sort of get going on that now, right? And sort of how do you sort of make sure that the people that you you really want to be intentional about remaining sort of emotionally close to, even if you're, and it's right, if you're Duke seniors, you're going all over the place later. So if you go to other places, doing that work and being deliberate about reaching out, sending a text, having a conversation, and sort of building a future where each other's current circumstances and not just referencing back to your times at Duke. I don't know, maybe you guys are, the benefit might be that you're learning in a much more specific way right now how to do that.
Yeah, for me, I always say my kids are my number one priority, and I work really hard to align my values with my behavior. But in this crisis, it's never been more clear to me kind of where my priorities are and where they should be. As I was saying, I try to exercise every day. And for me, the easiest way to do that is to take a walk with the dog. And my girls often come along with me, and they've started to name our walks in different parts. So they'll say, Dad, let's take the park walk, or Dad, let's take the right walk today. And so we'll go out and we'll spend a lot of time just walking around the dog. And yesterday, both of my girls made me these little lovely cards, and they wrote me little letters in there, and they both talked about how much they have loved our walks. And I thought, it's just, I know, me too, dude, I'm a mess. It's just, it's you've got to mop me up after these things. But it's just a reminder to me that it's the little small things. It's just like the little moments of connection. It is the telephone calls or just the short notes. It's just the tiny things that really help to link us and connect us with other people. And it's so mutually beneficial. So we have to do as much of that as possible. One other thing, which is that so my thing that I often say to my seniors is in the run up to graduation is I try to talk a lot about what the first year is like after you leave college, and it's described one of the hardest things. It's really hard because it's hard to appreciate how much your life has been impacted by the kind of forced proximity to other people. You're in high school and you live around people, and you sort of done doing play dates with people, and then then you come to college and you actually live near them and you see them and you join a club, and one of the hardest things to do in the first year after you graduate from college is just to figure out what do I actually like to do? When nobody's asking me to go do something, what do I actually enjoy? And it's really hard to make friends because they're not there. The people aren't just around you. And so you actually have to work at it in order to make those connections. And so I try to tell people, gear up for that. What do you actually like to do? And how do you learn about new things that you enjoy? And I think to Mary Pat's earlier point, you all are getting that earlier than most. What you're experiencing now is mercy, is a way of experiencing that that's in a much more significant magnitude than I want for you. But these are the skills, the things that you start to practice now will have utility down the road.